Yay. Okay.
Yay.
I'm always happy when I hear that sound. Like it's all working. Systems go. Well, thank you so much, Valerie, for being here on my podcast. I'm so honored, grateful. I had a blast for those of you who haven't checked out the episode on her podcast. So this is great role reversal and getting to pick your brain and hear your story. Anything before I kind of briefly introduce you that I don't know that's coming up for you or that you want to say?
No, I'm just excited to be here. I really enjoyed our conversation. So I hope everybody goes to check that out. And yeah, great to trade seats.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'll give a brief introduction, read your bio, and then if there's anything you want to add or in this moment that is different, please feel free. Valerie is an ICF professional certified coach who helps high achieving women navigate professional transitions to build meaningful success on their terms. She also works with mission driven organizations to support values aligned leadership and create cultures where people can thrive. So needed in this situation we're in. With over a decade in private practice and training in mediation, facilitation, and somatic attachment healing, she offers grounded, compassionate support for living and leading with authenticity and courage. She's also the host of the podcast Mindset Unlimited, tips, tools, and inspiration for women in a time of change. When she's not working with clients, you'll find her hanging with her husband and 2 sons, working on an art project or nerding out over a sci-fi movie. How's it
all
feel?
that sounds pretty spot on.
Okay. How's that feel? Does it feel like it's, not you in a nutshell, because how could that be? But like, how does it feel to hear about yourself? Or, yeah.
It's so interesting with bios. I feel like, we work so hard on them so that it does try and encapsulate like all the key points that people who might be looking for us need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is just so polished, like I don't think I'm like super rough per se, but I'm not always that polished, right? Like I'm messier than that. I do want to say I appreciate that you read it correctly as mediation, because so often people tie in life coach with meditation, and so their brains automatically read that as meditation even though it's mediation. So I appreciate that you read it correctly. I think having the facilitation there helps with that, but not, that's part of the reason I put that there. But like I just think with a bio, it hits the key points, but it misses all of the journey. Right? So like in some of the questions that you sent me, I had time to think about that question of what do people need to know about your journey, or to understand you. And I was like, oh my gosh, what does it mean to understand me? Right. And what part do people need to understand about me, and how much do I need understood? I think that's one of those things when you're making a bio, that's one of those questions of like, what do people need to understand to understand what I'm doing, but not who I am necessarily.
Yeah. I love all of those layers, because that's the, I try to bring levity of like, oh my God, we're in a chaotic time. But it's like, because of that compression, there's not that opportunity, that capacity to peel back the layers. So I love what you just said about, because the bio is and it's a hindsight. So thinking back when you were saying polished, what came to mind for me was, it's easier, at least for me, to think about, okay, I did those things and market it, put it in a way that makes sense or it's digestible. But also, I love what do people need to understand? What do I need to understand? What does understand mean? And what does capacity of understanding mean? Because, you know, now with these 30-second retention mind stand things, it's like, you know, so to try to distill all of that, what does a day in your life look like, I guess, for people to start to maybe put themselves in your shoes, and what do you do? And then we'll work about your journey, but just kind of starting in the now.
Yeah. Well, so I have two kids. They're older now, so they're a little bit more capable. And I appreciate that we overall get along pretty well. So a day in the life usually is kind of balanced. I don't like that word, but that's the automatic word to use, right? Is balanced. It's not balanced. It is a mishmash of home things and care for my kids, because they're not old enough to be completely self-sufficient, but they are old enough to do a lot on their own. So it is a mix of the things for them that I feel called to do, and the things for my work that I feel called to do. And that is a mix of being visible to people as well as doing the work itself. So I think that's one of the things when it comes to like being a business owner, and one of the things that people don't always know when they say, yes, I want to be a life coach. Like I love how many people have been inspired by coaching and want to do this kind of work. I feel like it speaks to a need that we have in our society of that level of connection of, I want to witness for someone. I want to hold space for someone. I want to provide that thing that those, you know, seconds that our attention is pulled in doesn't provide. And I'm so curious. Right? That's one of those things about coaching is I'm so curious. Like, you are an amazing human being. I want to know more about you. I want to give you space because you deserve space. Like, the number of people who feel called into that is amazing. And when people are called into it from that level, a lot of times they're coming in and they don't realize what it means to run a business. And that can be a bit of a shock. And I still think it's a piece of tension for me of like, what is running a business, especially in a time where we've been so conditioned that we don't deserve space, and that having space for ourselves is a luxury. And it's not just conditioning, it's real life circumstantial dynamics that have been created to keep us from taking up space, to keep us from engaging and knowing ourselves so that we can be discerning about the choices that we make. Because if we're discerning about the choices that we make, we might not be buying as much stuff. Except now we don't even have the money to buy as much stuff. So it's a whole big mess. We won't know ourselves enough to be involved, to get involved, to show up, to assess our risk level in showing up and make those really mindful decisions and all of that from a place of intentionality versus a place of our conditioning and trauma often. So it's really hard to offer those kinds of services in a way that feels good and not in the way that everybody's conditioned to make decisions, which is reactive and based off of pain points and based off, you know, like there's just, so navigating that is another facet of my, you know, a day in the life is, okay, how do I meet people where they're at, but also not play into all of the toxicity in our capitalistic society that is eating itself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's so much there. But
So much.
Yeah.
That's the day in life. And eating food.
Eating
myself,
food,
drinking water, trying to get enough sleep, you know, as everybody does. All of those pieces too.
Oh my gosh. So I feel like we're at a crossroads. I want to hear how you got there a little bit. And we before we got on, we talked about Joanne. So I'd love to hear the journey a bit, kind of like milestones or like chapters. But on the other hand, this is a sticky note for us, is talking about what are things that are helpful to you now. If there's any tips and tricks or whatever, So I guess I'll hand it off to you. Whatever, do you want to start going backwards in time, or would you like to offer some tricks or whatever makes sense? I don't want to.
Maybe we can do a sandwich.
Okay.
I
Okay.
just made sandwiches this morning for my family.
Okay.
So, so I have sandwiches on the mind.
I love it.
Yeah, maybe let's do a sandwich. Because I find it helpful, like in the beginning of a podcast, to be like, okay, I know I got a few things that I can take away if we're busy, because we're all so busy. I think what's helping me now, one is moving my body.
Okay. Yes.
I try and get out for a walk to move my body, and then also spend a little time sitting by, we have this little lagoon area near me. I used to live near Lake Michigan, closer to, so I could walk to it. And I'm
Oh.
sad that I am not that close, because I love the waves
Oh.
of a large body of water. But in this, it's a small body of water, man-made, but we have some really cool creatures to watch, right? And I love getting some space to commune with the natural world that we are so conditioned to disassociate from and not
Yeah.
be present to. So moving my body with a walk, and I just usually walk around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I know, I mean, I'm not meeting people, but like I see my space, the space that I live in, connecting to the place that I'm in, and then spending some time also connecting to the natural world of the space that I'm in.
Yes.
And the other day, so I live in Albany Park in Chicago, and I've heard, I have not verified this, but I've heard it's one of the most diverse places, like neighborhoods in the country.
Wow.
There are people from just about everywhere in the world. And I love that about us. And I also notice that we tend to group up, right, by what's safe and comfortable, but also safe, and to be real about where we are right now. And the other day I was walking, and I saw there were two women in hijabs with two little kids, and they were looking at the fish. And I asked, how do you say fish in Arabic? And it's initiated a conversation where we were interacting, and their kids, they're just little kids. And one of them, a little boy, was so excited to point out all the fish to me. And we sat down, or I sat down, and then they came and joined me. And we were talking about all the creatures that we've seen here. And we were talking about kids, and they had brought some tea with them, and offered me some tea that was like mint tea, and it was a sweet, I think, black tea that they crushed up mint leaves into when she handed it to me. And we just sat and communed together. We communed with nature, and we communed with each other. And these are my neighbors I've never met before. And so I think that for me in this time, giving space, and even it's hard to step away from the work stuff because that feels so pressing with all of the things going on. It's hard to give that room. And I will look at the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. Like, I've used so much time that I really needed to be sending emails or figuring out networking event, all of this sort of things that I need to do. But it was so connective to give myself room to reach out, to have that reach out be received, and to spend some time with people that I haven't gotten to know in my neighborhood, and share our natural world together.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I think that is honestly the biggest thing that keeps me tethered in a time where it's so easy to spin and stress. I can feel like the tension in my body when I need to think about, like, okay, what does business look like right now?
Right.
That helps me open up a little bit, helps me give room, moving opened up things, relaxed things, moved, gave flexibility, and then that communing, that connecting with others. as well as giving myself time to really commune with nature, but
Yeah.
also the divine in
Yes.
that
Yes.
that spiritual experience of waiting and making space to receive awareness
Mm.
is another facet that's really important to me. And I think that speaks to one of the questions that you asked, just what do people need to know me?
Yes.
I always hesitate because I feel like I have to explain it because people don't
Oh,
really understand. But I was raised Quaker.
okay.
So this is where we can bump
Yeah,
back.
it'd be great.
I
Yeah.
was raised Quaker. Quaker is short for the Religious Society of Friends.
Okay.
And the Religious Society of Friends, I recently found out, is short for
Oh,
the Religious Society of Friends of Truth.
okay.
And so Quaker was actually a slur that was
Oh,
imposed upon us, which we've totally embraced. We
yeah.
have very fully taken that back and gone, okay, sure,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's us. Uh, so it's not a slur to call us that.
Okay.
And the Religious Society of Friends of the Truth, the idea, like the
Mm.
founding, like we don't have a doctrine or a dogma. We're rooted in Christianity, but
Okay.
it's more like Christian mysticism.
Okay.
And so in the unprogrammed friends meeting, we sit and wait upon the spirit. We wait upon the
Oh,
light. And the idea is just opening to receive, making
wow.
room and communing with the divine, communing with each other. So it's a corporate experience. It's not just, I mean, we can do worship
Yeah.
individually, but people think more of that of like meditation.
Yeah.
It's when you're doing it corporately, it's a different experience because sometimes a message can
Mm.
come through somebody else for you.
100%.
um,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
so that's a core component of what
Mm.
keeps me centered is that space of opening to seek truth.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I always try and do when I'm connecting with someone is allowing the divine in me to speak to the divine in you.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's a fundamental practice within
Yeah.
Quakerism is
Mm.
seeking the light within others.
I love that. Beautiful. Yeah.
So those are my tips for right now. That's the
Beautiful.
initial sandwich is give
Yes.
yourself room to commune with your divine nature, with the
Yes.
divine in the world, with nature,
Yes.
how
Yes.
with other people in that way of really seeking to know them, seeking to know
Yes.
yourself, seeking to know the world that we exist in this embodied experience that we are having.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's so beautiful. So beautiful because I don't know much about Quakers and I just this is gonna, I mean, I don't know how this is gonna sound, but like Quaker oatmeal.
Yeah, no, that's
You
it.
know, and this,
We've kind of taken that image.
okay.
I saw someone at a gathering the other month
Yeah.
wearing it was a Quaker oats
Oh,
guy, but kind of like in almost like in drag.
oh, okay.
And it said what did it say? I want to say it was worship silently, love loudly, I think
Wow.
was something like that. So
I love that. Wow, that's
anyway, so we
beautiful.
fully embrace, like I have
We
been in
fully
meetings where they
embrace.
have like the Quaker oats on the wall, like
Oh my
in the
gosh.
kitchen area. Like I mean, we've accepted, but we don't the things that people I would just before you go on, the
Yes,
things that
please.
I always feel like I have to explain because people get confused. They confuse us with
Mm.
Amish, they confuse
Yeah,
us
oh,
with
okay.
Puritans, they confuse us
Mm.
with Shakers, which we have a little
Mm.
bit more similarity to Shakers, but they died out because they didn't have children. They
Okay.
um I
But you are
actually
not.
think of
Yeah.
them kind of more like, if you watched The Wheel of Time, the
Mm.
people of the Way of the Leaf, for those of you
Okay.
who like
Okay.
that show, which I did.
No,
So
that's great. Yeah, thank you. Because yeah, there's I think the US is its own kind of universe, its own microcosm, and there's just a hot pot or whatever we want to call it, a salad of Christianity, of denominations and subsets of within a thing. And I'm here in Northern Virginia, so when you said Amish, I said, yeah, they're right around the corner in Pennsylvania. But that's not Quakers, which is not this, which is, so I think the distinction is important. Thank you. And so how did you get to be a life coach? Or how was the journey of I guess finding yourself and then taking that step?
Yeah. Well, so I think of it as a divine accident.
Oh gosh.
Universally intentioned accident. Because it wasn't something I was seeking out. It wasn't something that I was ever really that I knew about either. But when I was young, people would say, you should be a therapist. And I was like, that is definitely not happening. And the main reason being because I knew myself, and this was like, I remember these conversations, like mostly when I was like a teenager, middle school, high school. I knew myself enough to know that I have a tendency, or had a tendency, I've done a lot of work since then, which is why I can be a life coach, but tendency to take on other people's stuff. So I always felt like I have a gift of empathy. I can feel what you're feeling, but my tendency would be, because I had so much stuff that was not healed yet, that I would see, oh, you're digging a hole, let me jump in with you and I'll dig too.
Yeah, help you out.
I'll help. And so it wasn't really helping, and I knew that was not good for me. I knew enough to say, let's say I knew it enough to say that I shouldn't be a therapist. I did not know it enough to not get into certain relationships that made that very much a thing that was not good for me. So yeah. So anyway, that was kind of the starting point, I would say. So I grew up in a home that was impacted by alcoholism and also recovery. So recovery came in when I was 8, and my parents were both doing their own versions of a 12-step program that was supportive for them in the way that experience was impacting them. And I also went to what they called Alakid, which is for children in homes impacted by alcoholism. And I didn't get a whole lot. Like, I got some stuff out of it, but I don't think it was as helpful as all that, because mostly the kids who were there were experiencing a great deal more violence than I was. Mine was just absence. And more recently, I've learned about that trauma, lowercase t trauma, not like an incident trauma, like a big uppercase T trauma, but a lowercase t trauma can be not just what happens to you, but what doesn't happen that should have, what was absent that needed to be there. So that has opened up a lot of awareness for me, but that has been a particular journey where I felt like watching my parents do their work, I got a lot of tools. It was like they handed me a toolbox. I wasn't just handed a hammer, I was handed a toolbox. The problem was I was only taught how to use a hammer. So I had all this awareness, but I didn't know what to do with it. I had great sayings, but I didn't know what to do with them. And so it wasn't until college when I found my own care. So I started seeing a therapist. I started going to Al-Anon meetings and adult children of alcoholics meetings. And there was only one other person my age. That was like my best friend in college, who we bonded through this journey of learning how to communicate with each other, learning how to set boundaries with each other, learning how to have a healthy relationship as friends. And while around us, we were also engaging in other relationships where we were learning these things too, but we had a space to kind of practice too. So it was in that space where I'd been maybe a year and a half or so doing a lot of my own healing, realizing that like I needed to learn how to use these tools that I had. And then I was right before graduation, I met my husband. And we'd worked together in theater stuff. So I majored in sociology, minored in theater arts. He majored in theater arts. He was 2 years ahead of me, but he was working at the college. And we met. And I share this like in the life coach journey because I really feel like this experience was pretty pivotal. Right before we met, I had this awareness, this like epiphany moment that I was listening to the Magnolia soundtrack. If anybody is watched the movie Magnolia, the soundtrack is done primarily by Amy Mann, who talks a lot about things that anybody who grew up in a home impacted by alcoholism would absolutely relate to. Like she has a song called Save Me. It's like save me from the ranks of the freaks that suspect they could never love anyone. And there's one that is momentum. Oh, for the sake of momentum, I've allowed my fears to get larger than life. And it's brought me to my current agendum where, let's see, I'm going to forget some of the words, but I know life is getting shorter. I can't seem to change the scene. Even when it's approaching torture, I've got my routine. Like there are just certain things that was just like, so I would listen to the soundtrack, like like I feel seen. And I had this moment listening to it. I remember very vividly sitting in the car and I was like, I do not want to resonate with this anymore.
Wow.
I want to be an agent of my life. I don't want to be just dragged along reacting to every situation that comes into my life. I want to be an agent. And I had this whole conversation with myself about, you know what? It's okay if you screw up. It's okay if you make a choice and you decide that it wasn't a good one and you want to change it or you want to do something different. Like all of that is okay. But if you don't make that decision, then you don't have that power anymore. So you need to just make a decision. You need to be the agent here, the one who makes the decision. And it was shortly after that that my husband asked me to go on a date. And that whole initial journey was full of me checking in with myself, me saying, hey, I want to take a rain check. I know what happens in this situation. I need some time to think. I didn't say that part out loud. I said the rain check part out loud, but the rest of it was like, I know what my tendency is, and I will check out and I won't make choices and I will then I will feel bad. And I need some time to think about how do I want to engage this? So all of that was full of that. And I honestly think that groundwork is the reason why we're still married today, almost 20 years later.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow.
And that we still like each other. Because not just because of the groundwork that I laid, but also his willingness to follow me. We've helped each other heal on different levels, like learning from each other, He used to get annoyed because I would be upset about something and I would come to him and talk about this thing. And he'd be like, well, just do these things. And then I'd be like, okay. And I didn't take it in. And I go to an Al-Anon meeting and I'd come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this thing. And he was like, I just told you that. I'm like, yeah, but I couldn't hear it. And he didn't fully understand, but he showed up for it. And we went to a therapist before we got married to do premarital therapy and make sure that we were on the same page. After having kids, we went to a therapist. I was building resentments. We were having issues. And he was like, why do we need to go? Like, we're fine. And I was like, well, here's the deal. We're fine right now, but I can tell that these resentments that I'm getting aren't going away. They keep coming back. And if we don't deal with this, we're not going to be fine. And he was like, okay. So we went. Now, I know now that and that was helpful. But what I think would have been more helpful is if I had understood what life coaching was, because we didn't need to fix problems. Our therapist was actually like, what? This is amazing that you're here and not like already falling apart. People only come to see me when they're like getting divorced and it's like almost too late. And you're here like preemptively. This is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, cool.
I know.
Yes. So anyway, all of that, we got together. I was trying to be an actress in LA. He had gotten a job out there. So I was exploring that, but I was working as an administration person, ended up climbing the corporate ladder. That was much more stable. I had serious adversity to risk, climbed the corporate ladder, So instead of the acting scene out in LA, I could tell if I had really poured into it, it would have been too, like, it wouldn't have been good for me.
Okay.
I'm too multi-passionate, and
Yeah.
that requires singular focus and a
Yeah.
lot of rejection. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So the corporate space, I
Yeah.
could work hard and do well. And I'm
That's
great
right.
with people. So I was good as a manager, and I was good as a interdepartmental facilitator. So, it was a small company growing rapidly. So I was able to like pull everything together, work with clients and do negotiating contracts and things like that. So I was really good at all those things. And I had kids. And I went, I'm not happy. Like, I've climbed the ladder. We got a house in the suburbs. I'm happily married for the most part, with a lot of tension because we were still working on stuff because kids and major changes in life. But I felt like I'd missed healing something. I'd missed something was wrong. I must have done something not correctly. And I knew I didn't want to get rid of the kids. I didn't want to get rid of the house, even though the commute was a little long. I didn't want to get rid of my husband.
Right.
The only thing left was the job. And I thought, maybe it's this. And so I started looking at what I wanted to do. I remember doing work with mediation in college. So I got trained as a mediator. That didn't give me enough to get a job that I would want.
Okay.
So I started talking to more people in careers that seemed interesting, talked to somebody who was doing corporate coaching. That sounded like all the things I liked without the things that I didn't in my corporate job. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go get certified in that.
Wow.
Went for the program that had some in-person and online, little mix. I like learning in person better than online.
Okay.
Little mix, fit my schedule.
Perfect.
And so I signed up. And in that program, I realized, this is what I was looking for. Like I said, with the relationship stuff, also for me personally, I needed to know who I am now. And I didn't even realize I was following a playbook that I hadn't written, that these are the things that you do. I mean, when you say it out loud, I've heard enough people say it, like, you get married, you buy a nice house. If it has a white picket fence, bonus points. Mine didn't, but whatever. Yeah. And you have 2 kids, and you climb the corporate ladder and make lots of money, and that is success. And it was like, but it doesn't feel good.
That's right.
It didn't feel good. So that was the awareness of, I haven't built, like, I don't know who I am at this point. I reached the end point. I did the things, and I didn't end up where I wanted to be. I didn't feeling wise, like I didn't feel the way I wanted to feel, or the way I thought I would feel when I got to the point where I had all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was the point for me where it was like, this is what I was looking for. And this ties into my sociology background. We're talking about people patterns. We're talking individual patterns, but we're talking about how that also plays into system patterns.
That's right.
And it ties into my spirituality. Within Quakers, there's a process of discernment. That is a core component in Quaker practice, is sitting, like, if you need clearness, if you want to be clear on something, you sit with others and they ask you questions to help you get clear on what it is that you want to do, and then provide, support you as you do the next things. And I was like, this ties into my spiritual beliefs, my personal beliefs, not Quaker beliefs, but personal beliefs, but Quaker practice. This ties into sociology. This ties into mediation. This ties into all the 12-step work that I've done. This ties into everything. And it puts it in a way that helps people move forward and create not only better lives, but a better world. And I went, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that was the long story. I saw somebody post recently, they don't bother saying long story short anymore. They say short story long, because I will, even if it's a short story, I'll expand it. So, so there it is.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh. And we need the long stories because I don't want, I mean, I don't know if this is a tangent, but these remakes and the um new sequels of whatever. Like I just want a long, juicy, I want to get into somebody's story and know them and feel resonant and learn from them and feel seen and heard and have them feel seen and heard. So I loved it. I'm very curious about Quakerism now. I'm gonna definitely because so much is resonant. I don't know if I mentioned this on our episode on your podcast, but I grew up Baptist. So my mom's Catholic, my dad is Baptist, so they picked. They're like, this is the one. And I didn't resonate with it. I left Christianity. I still have, I think, a big part of my heart culturally responds to that because what I grew up in and the US is very much Christian dominant. In Latin America for that matter. I mean, any place that's been colonized. Um, but I resonate a lot with like the mysticism, just approaches and metaphysical and spiritual things that are harder to define, or mentally, but easier to grasp intuitively. And so I just love. I'm very curious now, just as a personal note. And then the whole part about agency. I mean, I think that is for me, that was one of the key words because I think I would hope that this is what the day and age we're in now is the age of agency. This idea that okay, we have technology, that rule book, that ingrained matrix, whatever theology of you go to college, you get this, that all of that is going out the window because it doesn't work. And I mean, it maybe has worked for some, but it especially doesn't work now. So what does it mean to have agency? And I going back to the bread part of our sandwich, the beginning part about the communion, I thought that was so beautiful because I don't know if it's a forgetfulness or if it's a nervousness or whatever it is that there are people around us. There is nature all around us, and the opening up, the spaciousness, the capacity to just be a little bit uncomfortable, but long term, like what we gain just from a moment of discomfort or what appears as discomfort, but it's just like we haven't practiced that muscle because we're so dissociated from so many things. I loved your story. Thank you for sharing that. And are there, I guess to finish that sandwich, are there any other practices that are new to you, or that you were nervous to try, but that you have found great home and nourishment and support?
Yeah. I want to chime in with that idea of discomfort because I
Mm,
think what so often we have this sense that if it's uncomfortable, it's bad.
mm, mm.
It flies up the flags of danger for
Yeah.
us. And that is not necessarily the case, right? Discomfort can mean new.
Yeah, that's right. That's
And it's so key to be able to check in, to notice.
right.
So, I mean, honestly, I would say one of the things with my story I like to highlight is just the fact that it's not linear. Like I hit on pieces here and there, but like there was a lot of going back and forth. Like I did a lot of awareness stuff and that epiphany about agency with
Yeah.
in a relationship with a
Yeah.
romantic partner, but I didn't have it when it came to my work
Mm,
nearly as much because I was so resistant to doing something different. And then I
yeah.
chose to do something radically different when it was so much harder. Like just starting a business when you have children and
That's
it's
right.
it's a whole thing. So, I
Mm,
mean, I think these days
mm,
I try and lean into the things that are less comfortable. I've been
mm.
really challenging myself to speak up. I have a lot of conditioning around making other people comfortable.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And and taking responsibility for other people. As I mentioned, I've done a lot of work to release that, but it depends on the roles. I can do that so much better now when I have my coach hat on.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of comfort that I find in natural gifts that I tap into when I'm working with somebody in that kind of way, where I'm holding space for them.
Yeah.
When I step out into more of an advocacy space where I have where not have to, but where I choose to challenge
Okay. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a way that people maybe didn't invite, right? Like when as a
Yeah.
coach, there's an
Yeah.
invitation to be
Yes.
challenged. There's a
Yes.
reception, and I will ask still. I'm like, hey,
Sure. Right.
are you open to me pushing on that a little bit? I'll check in, but in, say, my kid's school, where, there's my kids go to a public school and there's a lot of bureaucracy in the public school system. I love public schools.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's a tension between supporting teachers, supporting schools, supporting community that you would think shouldn't be at odds
Yes.
with administration,
Right.
with the body that's responsible for making it all work.
Yeah.
There is.
Mhm.
And I find that happens when it's not community focused and when it's more dominant. Like we're handing you this information versus we want to understand from you. And we want to make sure that we are staying in alignment with what your needs are.
That's right. Yeah.
And so calling that out and saying, there's not transparency here. There's not accountability. I'm running into a dynamic where there's a meme that I've seen go around that says for people, or accountability feels like an attack for people who have not been able to process their own toxic behavior.
Oof. That's real.
And I recognize that toxic behavior usually comes from trauma.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of compassion for those dynamics. And my role in those places isn't to hold space for those people to process because they haven't asked me to. My role is to stand up and speak for those who don't have the space or capacity, energy, ability to take risks because of I have more privilege in a space, so I can stand up and say something. I have the space because I work for myself to show up to meetings. And so like to be the person who stands up and speaks out and calls out behavior and names it speaks truth to power, which is actually also rooted in a Quaker saying. Let your life speak truth to power. Those are things that are resonant. So that's my role in those spaces, and it feels extremely uncomfortable because I want everybody to get along.
Yeah.
I want us all to be on the same page. I want us to build together, but I have to recognize in a time like this as well, I have to recognize that there is time for breaking things down. And sometimes you can't build up what needs building if things haven't been broken down first. And that's hard because I don't want to be perceived as someone who's like trying to, like I want to be a builder. I don't want to be a break things down person.
Right.
So those are the places that I feel most uncomfortable, and that I'm learning, about my own fragility and my own discomfort and I honestly have gotten much better at receiving correction. Like I can sit with that vibration in my own body, but to be the one who calls it out, to recognize that by calling it out, I didn't create it.
Yeah. Yes.
If I feel it, it's already been created. It's the rift, the harm, the whatever it is has already happened. I'm naming it, but there's the whole shoot the messenger thing. So there are a lot of people, and I'm getting this in this space in particular, that you're causing problems. Like, I'm naming problems.
That's
By
right.
naming problems, I'm not causing them. I am naming them so that we can do something about them. Only by recognizing that they exist can we heal them.
That's right. That's right.
And that's an uncomfortable place to be in, and one that I think is absolutely critical in the moment that we're in.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I just love how you speak. Let me just say that, because it's hard to distill things that feel hypothetical or feel intangible, but to put it in a very embodied and in a way that it just makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Did you take public speaking? We don't need to go into that.
I did. I was an actor.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that gets all the credit. I don't think that gets all the credit. I do think that it allows me to speak up better.
Yeah.
People hear me in spaces better because of it.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, it's a part of what I was here to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I picked up some things came up for me as you were speaking. I think when I last spoke with you, or I don't know if I've shared this, but I've tried to keep my LinkedIn, like certain online spaces, divided to compartmentalize, because I'm still freelancing 9 to 5. And as we know, it's hard building a business. And then it's with X amount of, I mean, just being a person in this world is hard building a business. But then we add on kids and houses and juggling jobs, and if people are caretaking and whatever it is. So for me, and for me, that I just want to share this because I just did this 2 days ago. I've been going back and forth in my body and in my heart and all the things of how can I show up consistently in my business, which I do in some ways, like this podcast, like on Instagram, things that feel safe, but not in a way that perhaps would be more impactful, and kind of put my flag in the earth. And so LinkedIn was that, because so many people would say, Raquel, why aren't you putting it on it? And we found you, but we don't find that you have your podcast or your stuff. And my thing would be, well, because I'm still working 9 to 5, I'm still milking that system, and I don't want to be seen in a certain way. But then I started rethinking agency for myself and thinking, but if I'm not showing up, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but where I'm at today with it is, I don't want to be straddling. And I know the middle way and all of this in Buddhism, it's like, find the neutrality, but as much as we can. But I think for me, it's like, no, I want to take up that space, demand the space, be seen a certain way, because then I feel like I'm not owning that to myself. Like there's a cognitive thing going on where if I'm not seeing myself in that way, in that place, then internally. And so I say all of this because I'm currently practicing that sort of agency in my life right now. And it's scary because it's, am I going to harm prospects down the line? Am I not going to be able to do the comfortable thing, even though, I feel thankfully in a good financial space with my husband? I could take the risk, but risk is scary. And as we're talking about discomfort, it's new. It's and that's where the kind of negotiation I'm in now. So I just loved hearing your journey and these keywords, at least for me, that what's coming up is what agency looks like in our lives where we are now, is needed. And there's not a right or wrong. I'm not trying to say that to anybody, but to as much as we can, as much as we feel we're able to start to work with that, to play with that. Because I did say it feels so good. I mean, I'm still a little scared, but I feel like the little Raquel in me is like, oh my God, you're doing this, like yay. And it's a constant work. I mean, I love how you said your path is non-linear. I mean, I honestly, I see graphs. I've become a runner. I don't know if I said that on our episode, but I did not love running for the longest time. And uh, the past few months, I've really been enjoying it, and it's been a non-linear path. And so the voice in my head of saying, today I decide to walk and run, or today I decide to run, or today I decide to do nothing. But giving ourselves grace, and whatever agency looks like as we give ourselves grace. I want to end with, we could do another little sandwich. We're just giving people a buffet here. The first thing is media. Any books, shows, movie, music that changed or shaped your life in some way, and how?
So many. So many. And, first, I do want to say congratulations for showing up in an uncomfortable space and trying it out, because that's those experiments of like, how does this feel? What's the level of risk that I'm willing to take is so key. And I appreciate that, because what fits for us at different time, at one time might not fit for us at another time. And having that check-in is so important. And I feel like that's how I am with movies and books and things like that, is like what fits me, what I'm seeking at a particular time changes. And there have been some really impactful ones. Like, I mean, I am such a nerd. Like, I love the Lord of the Rings. I do think that part of that may be why I used to be afraid of spiders, because of Shelob. They've got the giant spiders. But I often find myself quoting passages from that. And just because, like, that nobody chooses to live through these times. All we can do is choose what to do with the time in which we are given. And I think, so I'm going to go with that, just because that book series, I mean, I quoted it in my wedding vows. It reminds me of agency. It reminds me of what we are capable of, even in small pieces. That's right. To show up to the part of the journey that we are in. We can't do all of the journey. We're not responsible for every single part. Right. We're responsible for ours. And to know that we are in community. Find our community, find our people, find the ones that lift us up. And each part of that, Sam and Frodo have each other, right? Throughout that whole thing, they journey together, but so does Gimli and Legolas. They create a bond together across their vast differences and initial dislikes. And Aragorn has this group together. I mean, there's just so many places where they it goes in and out. They're connected, they're disconnected from each other in space, but they're all working together. And just another little Quaker reference. My husband calls Quakers, we're like Ents. We take a long time to move, but when we do, but it's that discernment process, of like sitting with something and really making a choice. But and you have like Merry and Pippin and their roles, that they're together and they help the Ents move, and then they go their separate ways and they both do like really important things. I mean, it's just, we can't do it all, but we can do our part, and we can show up to each piece. And it's not going to always feel good, and it's not going to be clear, but putting one foot in front of the other and checking in and connecting with the people that we need to connect with, the people who are in our life, that makes a difference. And sometimes challenging those people, that's something that happens a lot in that book series as well, is challenging the people that we care about to step up and to think about things differently. And maybe they're not seeing something clearly, and doing it because you care. I think Gandalf challenges King Theoden, who has been blinded by the weavings of the darkness of Saruman, like these whisperings. He's consumed these whisperings. Maybe it's, consuming all this media and the way, certain types of media you got lost in. And he he challenges him because he cares so much. He's like, you're an amazing person and you've gotten lost. And I'm going to speak to that part of you that is capable of great things from the part of me that is capable of great things. And that, sometimes it's heard and sometimes it's not. Saruman couldn't hear it, but Theoden did. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't think about how deep that was, but there you go. That book series is that meant a lot to me on so many levels.
And that was my other do you have any advice, recommendations, or experiences? But it feels like
I think that's all there. Yeah. I think we hit all of that right there.
We leave it there. Well, where can people find you to listen to your podcast, to work with you, to connect with you, to anything?
Yeah, my website is valeriefriedlander.com, and you can find me on most social medias at Unlimited Coach Val.
Awesome. Yay. Well, this was spectacular. I'm trying not to, I always have, I think, a tendency to like, this was amazing and then blah, but I just want to leave it. That was my drop moment. Thank you so much, Valerie. This was spectacular, amazing, fantastic. It's always a pleasure speaking with you and learning from you, sharing space with you, communing with you. So thank you so much. Just thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. It's always wonderful talking to you too.
Great. Well, we're signing off with this episode. Thank you all for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.